You're watching PEG-RI TV, Rhode Island's public access channel.
Hello everyone. Despite popular belief, I have episode 2 tonight. I'm back again. The Jason J. Tavares show for right-brained entertainers is back. Excuse me, the Jason J. Tavares show for right-brained, is it entertainers? Was that the original name? It is entertainers? We're back again. I didn't think we'd be back, but we are. Tonight I have a very special guest, Mr. Keith E. Johnson. Why he's a special guest is because of all the accolades that he has, also because of who he's related to. Excuse me, I have a little bit of indigestion there. He is related to H.P. Lovecraft. For those of you that don't know who that is, that's Howard Phillips Lovecraft. He was a great writer in Rhode Island. Unfortunately, he's passed away. He passed away in 1937. He was born August 20th, 1890, and he passed away March of 1937?
Yep.
March 15th of 1937.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
He had written a story back then. He written many stories, but one of the most famous stories that he wrote was called The RE-ANIMATOR. The RE-ANIMATOR he wrote between October of 1921 and June of 1922, if you believe it. Pretty impressive. Years later, unfortunately after his death, the movie came out, RE-ANIMATOR. Came out in 1985, and it became a cult classic, similar to many other cult classics out there. This is a picture of the gentleman right here. I also have his picture from my last show, if you can see behind me over here in the middle. At the bottom, kind of a small picture, but this is a bigger picture here today. But lucky for us, I was able to get one of his descendants on the show today, Mr. Keith Johnson. Keith actually has a lot in common with his ancestor there. Ancestor, that's a good word to use, right?
Well, yeah, relative.
Relative.
Close relation.
He's a writer as well, which is pretty impressive. He has written Paranormal Realities 1, Paranormal Realities 2, and Paranormal Realities 3, which can all be found on Amazon. And he is the host of GHOSTSRN.E.A.R. So I'd like to welcome him here today. Thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me, Jason.
Oh,
Great
welcome.
to be here. Pleasure.
So what can you tell me about your show and your paranormal background?
Well, my paranormal background, I guess I've always been kind of paranormal, meaning outside of the normal. Yep. My brother and I are identical twins, and we grew up in a, I guess you could say, haunted house. Let's say it had some activity.
Wow.
And it was a new house out in Scituate, Rhode Island, North Scituate. It was built for our family, and my brother and I were 6 months old when the family moved in, so I can't say it was old creepy house with a history. It was brand new. Yep. And some things, I mean, it wasn't the Amityville horror. We didn't have things flying around left and right. But every once in a while something would happen. You'd see like a woman's driving glove was in the middle of the hallway one day when we were kids. And where'd that come from? Yeah. And I looked around again, it was gone. Little things like that to let you know, hey, I'm here.
Now, you saw it manifest, or it was just fun?
We didn't see it manifest, and that's spirits are usually very tricky like that. They usually won't let you see something manifest. You turn around, it's there, and you, hey, look at this, and it's gone.
Because if you saw it manifest, you'd be moving out, probably.
Right, probably so. Probably so.
Wow.
They wouldn't have believed me. I mean, when we were really young, my brother and I were 5 years old. My sister was in the high chair. She was a little kid, but we. My mother, after supper, got choked up a little bit. Yeah. My dad handed her a glass of water from the faucet. She wanted to drink it. It vanished.
Right in front of them?
Yes. Yep. Wow. Not the glass, but the water. You could,
yeah.
I mean, you could see it like fizzing up and just go right down. So we call that our thirsty ghost.
Now, let me ask you this. In a house like that, I don't know if you guys did this back then, did you guys ever take a battery or something like that to see how quickly it drains? Because I heard if there's energy, it drains power sources.
Right. We didn't know enough to do that back then, but we have had, of course, over the years, many experiences like that where batteries have drained. Yeah. For example, my brother and I are tour guides at Slater Mill. We also conduct the ghost tours there. We have visiting paranormal groups come in, and the general public, seasonal. And we always tell people, well, good chance your batteries will drain, but don't throw them out because as soon as you drive away, they'll come back. So
Wow, that's pretty scary.
usually, you know.
See, it makes you wonder why people are still disbelievers when you can prove something like that to them.
Right.
You know,
right.
it doesn't happen in other areas, but it happens in a situation like that in an area where you're talking about, and you think people would believe a little more than they do.
Right. Well, some people will believe just about anything. Some people, there's nothing you can do to convince them.
Yeah.
So I think best thing is to have a certain amount of healthy skepticism.
Yeah.
You know, so you're not just believing every little snap or twig, despite what you see on the TV shows. You know, what was that? You know. So, but yeah, healthy skepticism is a good idea. Don't be totally closed-minded, but there are things out there that pretty much inexplicable.
Let me ask you this. When I spoke to you on the phone, you had mentioned something about something that happened to you that ties into the Conjuring.
Yes.
Now, what is
Yes.
that?
Well, that goes back to when I was a teenager, and I was in my first paranormal group. My brother and I were in our first paranormal group, which is Parapsychology Investigation and Research Organization at Rhode Island College, PYRO for short. We weren't pyromaniacs, but we went around investigating. And you have to understand, this is the early 70s, and it's before this was popular, or very well known. And our first case was our first major in-home case. I mean, we'd gone on investigations, but our first family thing was actually in Harrisville, Rhode Island. We were contacted by a family, because there was no internet, so I put an ad in a local paper. Yeah. We were contacted by a family in Harrisville, Rhode Island, who a couple of years before had moved into an 18th century farmhouse. The mother just had to have this. Well, she got more than she bargained for. As soon as they moved in, she had 5 daughters, and the youngest children were starting to see spirits. They didn't think they were spirits. They looked so real. Yeah. I said, "Who's that man there?" So they just named their favorite ghost Manny. And they'd see...
Without telling the parents, probably, at first.
They didn't tell the parents at first, but later on, of course, then the mother began experiencing things, Carolyn. And this is the story she told us. We interviewed her, firstly over the phone before coming to the house, and told us that these things, strange things, had been happening. And to her, it was more terrifying. It didn't like her. Whatever main force was there didn't like her. She was in the barn, and a scythe came off the wall, started spiraling down, just missed her. Wow. She was peeling an orange once, blood started spurting out of it. She thought she cut herself, but she hadn't.
That's scary.
So she passed out then. And one time she had just taken a bath. She came out of the bathroom into what they call the warm room to dry off. Yep. A coat hanger leapt off the rack and began whacking her on the head. So something didn't like her there.
No.
So finally, her daughters and her got together, and they all had a family confession that these things are happening. And at first, it may have been a little bit fun, amusing, but then it became terrifying, downright terrifying. So, you couldn't just look up on the internet for paranormal groups back then. So when she saw our ad, we were like one of the few people that would not condemn her and would listen to her story. So we did come to her house to investigate. As soon as we stepped on the property, it was almost like an electric fence. You could feel it just draining you. Something didn't want us there.
You felt fatigue off of it.
Oh, yeah. I felt ill, nauseous.
Wow.
The daughters, the young girls, they took a liking to me very much. I was a long-haired hippie type, believe it or not. I was a lot thinner, long hair as a style, but they took me around, started showing me the property. And my brother and our chairperson, Donna, were inside. They heard banging footsteps upstairs, but nobody was upstairs.
That's scary. Wow.
My brother walked upstairs. He saw a vaporous dark cloud floating towards him.
So it's actually more scary when you have other people as witnesses.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Because when you're alone, it happens. You're like, geez, it's scary, but who's going to believe me? When you have other people looking at you and they're scared as well, that must make it more frightening.
That is exactly why we say never investigate alone. First of all, it's very dangerous.
It's like a Ouija board. Never play a Ouija board alone.
Exactly. It's very dangerous, and you want to validate. You want verification of what you're experiencing, because who's going to believe you? So, I came back and we went upstairs. The girls took me upstairs and would tell me how afraid they were, and they're giving me a tour of their bedrooms. And I asked, well, of course, I had been reading the Bible all the way over. That's my personal protection. And I asked them, well, do you go to church? They said, well, sometimes we do. Yeah, we're Catholic. And I said, well, and try calling upon the name of Jesus Christ. As soon as I said that, it was like something went off in the room. It's very hard to describe, but it's like time stands still. Everything was happening fast, but it seemed very slow. A window was open because of the August heat. It was late August, and it couldn't be shut. They tried pulling it, just couldn't be shut. All of a sudden, that slam, like, made us all jump. One of the girls was slapped on the side of the head. Her head flew to the side. She practically fell off the bed, screaming, crying.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this now. When all that stuff's taking place, it happened in a time where you didn't have all the recording instruments of today.
That's right.
So you must have had not only yourself. Was there other people involved in writing afterwards and trying to, annotate what took place?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of people that did document what happened there.
Have you guys worked together on that and put anything together?
Yes. Yeah, our team was there and realized, of course, I kept praying and then the activity stopped.
Yeah.
But it was like, you really felt like something was draining you. It was like almost like a current, electric current. But I prayed, I used the name of Jesus Christ, and it stopped. Didn't go out of the house. But the mother was terribly frightened shortly after we left. She woke up at about 5:15 in the morning and smelt sulfur in her bedroom. And she looked around. It's hard to describe what she saw. There's this, I hesitate to call it an apparition. It's some kind of manifestation, this in the basic form of a woman wearing an old-fashioned gray dress, but the head was cocked to the side as if the neck was broken. Now, there had been, of course, a legend that on the property or nearby, a woman had hanged herself, and around that era where the clothes were very antiquated, and she couldn't really see her face. It was just like described as a desiccated hornet's nest, kind of like a rotting corpse. And she began speaking this chant, and it was very, very bizarre. From what Carolyn, the mother, Carolyn Perrin, what she remembered, it said, "I'll drive you mad with fiery brooms. I'll drive you mad with death and gloom. I'll drive you out, but it will be too late. You'll be dead."
Ugh.
Talk about the shock. So
I'd never come back after that.
I know.
All right.
I know. Some of us didn't. Some people didn't. Donna, my brother, and I did. But some people, that's it. I'm not coming back there.
Now, with that experience you had, that they ended up using the ideas for it in The Conjuring, and now I know you've been on TAPS.
Yes.
You've been on Ghost Hunters.
Yes.
And with your own program, GHOSTSRN.E.A.R, did the ideas for the Paranormal Realities 1, 2, and 3 come from stuff that happened to you and your wife, Sandra, on your show, or from being on TAPS and Ghost Hunters?
Well, actually, all my life. It progresses from my earliest experiences, some of which I just shared, and going on to our first investigation group, Pyro, till becoming members of the Atlantic Paranormal Society, TAPS, which is, of course, featured on the TV show Ghost Hunters. And my brother and I were on the first and second season of Ghost Hunters. And then, of course, we branched off and we formed New England Anomalies Research, NEAR. Some of the names are really long, so obviously
they're great names. They're acronyms. So,
yes, right.
It's good that you can expand on them. That's awesome.
Which is why our show is GHOSTSRN.E.A.R. But it's based on actual experiences. That's why it's the Paranormal Reality series. It's all true stories. And the eldest daughter of the Perrin family in Harrisville, Andrea, she's written a trilogy, House of Darkness, House of Light, and it's all about her family's experiences and her personal recollections of what happened at the farmhouse in Harrisville. So she wrote extensively on it. I've written on it. So it is a true story. Now, the movie The Conjuring, there's a lot of deviations. It's Hollywood, but they are representing real people that really lived there. And Andrea's represented in the movie, so she's a dear friend of mine to this day.
The scariest part, I thought, was when I think she was on top of the bureau.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah. They look around and that thing just jumps out like that.
I'm supposed to be a guy. I was supposed to be tough, but I still jumped. My popcorn moved.
I know. You're just not expecting that. The director, James Wan, he is a master of that
he did very good.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, too, since we touched on Mr. H.P. Lovecraft.
Yes.
Tell me, how does it feel to be a writer, to have your own show, and to be not trying to follow in his footsteps, but naturally following in his footsteps?
Humbling. Very, very humbling. Because I look at the writings of H.P. Lovecraft and how prolific he was, and I wish I could measure up. I wish I could measure up.
You are, though.
Well, I'm trying to follow in the family footsteps, so to speak.
H.P. Lovecraft, as I had said before, the RE-ANIMATOR. He had written it a long, long time ago, between 1921 and 1922. Cult classic, came out in the theater in 1985. And I put this out on my first show, too. I had a guy who's a singer-songwriter on here, Jeremy Tollison. I told him, I said, just because what you're doing isn't as big as who you look up to, doesn't make it any less important.
Well, yeah,
all.
that's very true, very
And
true.
the thing with H.P. Lovecraft I was reading, you know this as well probably, he was broke when he unfortunately passed away in
Yes.
1937.
Yeah.
A lot like Edgar Allan Poe.
Right,
You know,
right, exactly.
He passed away, 1937, Edgar Allan Poe, and, 1937, Edgar Allan Poe in 1849.
Yes, yeah.
So, I mean, the
age
two of
40.
them were, you know,
Right, right. It's
long distance away from one another. you know.
Exactly.
But at the same time, when you're a right-brained person and you're trying to get things done like writing, drawing, acting, if you don't get noticed, a lot of times you're putting all you have into it, and
Right.
you know, like these guys don't get noticed until years after
Right.
they're gone.
And the only money I make on it at all is through book sales, and that's of course sporadic. And I'm not rich and wealthy off the paranormal. I mean, there's this kind of misconception that you get into the paranormal, you're going to get famous, you're going to get rich and everything. But no, it's like I was in it when I was a non-entity, and I will continue to be in it when it's not popular anymore. It's just something I do, and I don't get wealthy off of it. And I'm not driving a Cadillac. I don't have the
enjoy it,
near
though,
jet, things like that. Yeah,
But you
yeah.
enjoy
Oh,
it?
yeah, yeah.
My favorite actor and writer, Sylvester Stallone,
Oh, yeah.
he says one of his biggest quotes, find something you do for free and make that a career. Now, he's not saying it's necessarily going to make you rich,
Yeah,
but if it's something that you would do for free, and then if you eventually make money off of it, that's
Yeah.
that much better, right?
right.
So that's a
Right.
great philosophy, and I've been following that ever since I read it.
Yeah, I admire him too very much.
Very
And
impressive guy.
He has connections with Rhode Island too.
Yeah.
Because, you know.
Yeah, really, very creative guy. Now let me ask you this now. We covered your books a little bit. We covered your show.
Yes.
And the show you had previously. Taps. We talked a little about H.P. Lovecraft himself.
Yes.
What have I not asked you that you would like to discuss? Anything about the paranormal, writing, creativity, anything like that? Anything that I haven't drawn out in a question? Would you like to
Well,
discuss that?
there's so much. I mean, we could
could
talk
have a
for-
4-hour show.
Yeah, we literally could. We could have a convention about it.
Oh, definitely.
And, but it was a good experience being on Ghost Hunters. You know, my good friend Jason Hawes. We actually met before he was famous, and. In fact, it's funny. I was on the internet looking for local paranormal groups because I didn't belong to one at the time, and I saw this this little site that's of course TAPS is so huge now, but I saw this little site that the Atlantic Paranormal Society, and kind of attracted me. And I looked at guys in Warwick, like I come from, so I contacted Jason Hawes, and it's kind of like, gee, where have you been all my life? And where you been all my life, and stuff like that. That's how I got involved in the. Now, of course, it's huge. Got the TV show and everything like that. But the paranormal is all around us. It really is. Paranormal is very, very much around us, and it's very hidden, of course. But
Well, there's more than one universe going on at any given time. That's what
Yes.
they say, right?
yeah.
Like right where we're standing, we might not see it, but like right where this desk is, where you are, where I am, there could be other things
Yes.
going on.
Yes, they could. And of course, on the TV show Dark Shadows years ago, back in the 60s and early 70s.
Barnabas Collins, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly. They explored that, going all through parallel time and everything like that. Which brings me to kind of cryptozoology. You think of that, of course. Cryptids, they're creatures that are not really known or scientifically accepted, such as Bigfoot.
Loch Ness Monster,
Loch Ness Monster, of course.
Chupacabra.
Exactly. You know them all. In fact, I believe some of them may be interdimensional or paraphysical.
Mothman's one of the biggest these days.
Yes.
Since the show, the movie in, was it 2001, and then the Silver Bridge collapse.
Oh, yes.
December 15th, I think, 1967, Point
Yeah,
Pleasant.
very good. Very
That
good.
was, I went to the town, actually. I stayed
Did you
there
really?
twice, yeah. I have a friend who lives in Virginia, but I was moving back here years and years and years ago from Indiana, and I ended up taking, I think it's Highway 13, off of 70 West.
Yeah.
Excuse me, 70 East, coming back toward the East Coast. and it's a long squiggly road. And I went down there, and I spent 2 days in the town. I actually met with the Chamber of Commerce
Really?
person. They took me all around the town to the TNT area, and pretty interesting stuff.
Would it surprise you to learn that Rhode Island has a legendary Mothman?
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
I mean, that's what he's been described as,
Yeah.
but there's a chapter in one of my books, The Mothman of Brayton Cemetery.
Now, did this come out after 1967 or before?
Oh yeah. This is after. This is way after, and we just affectionately called him the Mothman because of the glowing eyes people have seen. So kind of like the Mothman was described. So legendary Mothman of Brayton Cemetery.
Wow, that's pretty scary.
And I've got something here. I want to see. This is, of course, this is actually a reproduction of the cast, but it's exactly like the original cast of the Patterson film in 1967.
Oh, yeah.
You
They're
know,
actually
Bluff
saying
Creek.
that's more real than fake now again.
Yeah. The more they've, it's never really been disproved, and the more they investigate that, it really doesn't seem like somebody in a suit.
Because of the size from the torso, if you look at the waist up,
Yes.
it's longer than the legs.
Right.
And the swing of the arm, a man's arm wouldn't fill that outfit and still have movement in the fingers.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
the way,
Exactly.
the way the sway was, it would have been more of a loose swing.
Exactly.
Yeah, I saw that on television. I read about it too. I thought it was pretty interesting. Now, where did you get that from? Though?
Oh, just a friend of mine was at a convention. He does duplicates of these. He's
a
got the
wide
whole
foot,
connection.
though, huh?
Yeah, it is, isn't it? I mean, imagine finding a whole bunch of tracks like these.
Imagine the balance they have
Yes.
with the wider foot.
Yeah.
You know?
Which is, their peculiar gait that they walk like in the Patterson films.
Yep.
And of course, there's been sightings of Sasquatch or Bigfoot, whatever you want to call it, in Rhode Island, in northern New England and in Rhode Island. And of course, Rhode Island being so small, I kind of wonder if they might be indeed paraphysical, coming from
Passing
another
through
dimension.
dimensions,
Yeah.
Because I always wondered that, because when they pass away, everything passes away, unless you're a vampire and you live 500 years.
Right.
But that's another topic we'll get on another time. Like bears. Bears are a giant creature. When they die, they usually go into a cave. You very seldomly find a bear skeleton.
Yes,
When these things pass away, you'd find a skeleton. No one ever finds a skeleton.
Right.
So what you're saying makes a lot of sense.
Right, and there's a theory that they bury their dead, but I personally think it could be transdimensional, something that appears for a while and then goes kind of in and out like that.
Like Mothman, I remember in the movie they brought up a good point. They said Richard Gere's character, I mean, I know they made a different story out of what really took place, but they did tie into a lot with the Silver Bridge collapse and everything. But they did bring up a very good point in the movie when that doctor that he went to speak with for advice, he told him, he said, he's asking the guy, he's like, hey, he goes, why doesn't this thing tell me what it wants? And he goes, because it's more advanced than you. Like, would you tell a cockroach what you want? He said it in so many words, like, you wouldn't justify yourself to a cockroach. Why would it justify to you being a human?
Right.
So that's with them passing in and out and doing what they do when they're here. That makes a lot of sense.
Yes, exactly.
Makes a lot of sense for people that disbelieve in it. You know? As you can see, I do believe so.
Right. It's like Star Trek and the Kardashians. They're compared. Spock compares us to amoebas compared to them.
Yeah.
Now, not to be confused with the Kardashians, of course.
But then at the end, Kirk always has to say, he goes, Spock, you're becoming more and more human all the time.
It's
and
true.
It's like an insult.
Yeah, right. I see no reason to insult me, Captain.
Yeah, most people would think that it's something, to flatter him. But then again, to him and as elevated as he is and thinking and everything and as intellectual as he is, it's an insult.
Right,
That's
exactly.
hilarious.
Yeah. And speaking of H.P. Lovecraft, my brother organizes this, my brother Carl, every year we do a tribute to H.P. Lovecraft.
Oh, wow.
It's usually on the first weekend of April, unless, of course, Easter falls on that weekend. But it's on the first Sunday in April. We go to the Ladd Observatory, where H.P. Lovecraft has supposedly been spotted years after his death.
Wow.
He was the Ladd Observatory, and he spent much of his youth there. He was fascinated with astronomy. He was actually writing pamphlets about astronomy, and they're Brown University. They were being published. People thought this was an experienced astronomer, not a 12-year-old author. But we hold the tribute because of his fascination with astronomy at the Ladd Center, the Ladd Observatory, every year. So,
isn't it unfortunate that people like that have to die so young? Like, he passed away at 46.
yes.
You got Edgar Allan Poe passed away at 40.
Yep.
I mean, these guys, in their small time on Earth, like right now I'm 41. I'm not too far away from 46. small time on Earth, and
Yeah.
they left such a big mark. It's
Yes.
very impressive.
Yes, exactly.
But you're doing the same thing. You're in his footsteps.
I try to. I try to. I mean, like I said, it is very humbling. And I wouldn't compare my writing style to Lovecraft. He had his own unique writing style, but I mean, Lovecraft, he was the man. You know, Stephen King, influenced by him. And so anybody who wants to come to that, I urge them. It's going to probably be the first Sunday in April.
Okay.
We usually try to have it's at the Ladd Observatory on the east side of Providence. If you're available, you're certainly welcome to come. And
Definitely shoot me a text or an email.
we encourage people, and I know you're a talented singer yourself. People are encouraged to either bring poetry readings or sing whatever they want. You know, kind of a Lovecraft.
You watched me sing on the YouTube video?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Oh, you think I'm a good singer?
Yeah,
huh?
I do.
Oh,
I
nice.
do.
That
I was
without
really
music
impressed.
in the background, but
I was really impressed.
yeah, Broken Tracks is actually this book here that I wrote. But I wrote the song in the book, so I thought I'd sing it there. And thank you, appreciate it.
And surprisingly, H.P. Lovecraft, he had a record of him singing "In the Shade of the Old Apple Tree."
Huh.
And he thought it sounded like a dying rooster or something like that, so he broke it, destroyed it. And his fans had never really forgiven him for that. But people who knew him said his singing voice was not that bad. It was rather pleasant.
When I used to sing as a kid, my mother used to knock on my door and tell me to turn the radio up.
Oh,
Parents
really?
don't usually say that. My singing was that bad.
Wow.
We're going to be wrapping up in a minute. Keith Johnson, do you have anything else to say about your books or where to get them?
You can go to Amazon, Amazon.com, or go to our site, which is nearparanormal.com. They're available there. Contact us, and Sandra and I are very available to the public. We're easy to reach. And also, I'm doing theater again.
Oh, nice.
You know, because it's the slow season in the touring business, which I do. So in mid-April, I'll be doing with Swamp Meadow Community Theater, I'll be doing a production of MASH.
Oh, wow.
Live stage production.
So you have acting, you have your own show, you've had a past show,
Yep.
you've been on other people's shows, and you're writing books.
Yep.
Wow.
And I'm
it's an
usually
honor,
dirt poor.
but you're doing what you want to do, though.
Yes, exactly. That's what's important.
You're making income
God
on one
willing,
end,
yeah.
you're doing what you want to do. Eventually, they're going to merge, and you're going to be all set. But it's been
Oh.
a great pleasure to have you on the show today.
It's been my honor.
And I'd like to wrap up. I would like to say thank you once again to have Keith Johnson on the show, the writer of Paranormal Realities 1, 2, and 3. And he's the host of Ghosts.RE.A.R with his wife Sandra. Thank you for being here today. I also like to plug that the Jason J. Tavares Show for right-brained entertainers is always looking for guests. If you'd like to email me, my email will shoot across the screen. You can hit me up on Facebook at author Jason J. Tavares. Very easy to find. If you just Google Jason J. Tavares, you'll find it. And these are 3 books that I've written. The Shadow Inside, which is falling over right now. Existence, The Tale of a Fang Killer, and Broken Tracks Beneath Forgotten Windows can all be found on Amazon.com. You can check those out, and if you put my name in YouTube, you can see the interviews, the last interview, this interview, future interviews, and all the films that I've done. Thanks again for like the 4th time.
Thank you for having me. Really
for being
appreciate
on the show, and we will see you guys soon. Last thing I'd like to say, it's a right-brained show. Writers, directors, actors, producers, dancers, singers, sculptors, you're welcome to be on here, so send me an email. Thanks for watching.